Hi, I'm Dolly Vasta, and welcome back once again to For Art's Sake. It's that time of year when everyone travels and visits, so what better location to tape than the East Brunswick Museum? And my guests are John Runyon, president of the East Brunswick Museum, and Estelle Goldsmith, trustee and registrar of the museum. Welcome.
Welcome to the museum.
Thank you. John, who's the little friend there and the bigger friend there?
Some people carry teddy bears, I carry my favorite elephant. No, these two elephants are part of the collection we have here at the museum that belonged to Governor Harold Hoffman. He was governor of New Jersey from 1935 to 1938 during the Lindbergh trial, and recently his estate loaned us indefinitely his entire elephant collection. There are about 1,000 of them here in a special exhibit room that we've mounted for this specific display. We brought furniture and cabinets and curtains and things from the living room in South Amboy where these were displayed. So you can see them here much as if they were displayed in the governor's house in our neighboring sister city, South Amboy. It's really a marvelous collection.
How many do you have?
It's about 1,000. It's about 1,000. I think it's 872 that aren't broken. There are a few that are broken. We didn't count those, and we have some others we haven't cleaned up yet. But it's close to 1,000, Dolly.
Cleaned up or cleaned up after?
Cleaned up after, right. Now, they're inanimate. They don't make a mess at all. This herd of thundering elephants.
Completely clean?
Completely clean.
Good. All right, what about the John Crawford Tom's exhibit that you had?
Yeah, the Tom exhibit was how we really got involved in Governor Harold Hoffman's family, because James Crawford Tom was the grandfather of Governor Hoffman, and we had contacted the family about loaning paintings for our retrospective of James Crawford Tom's work. James Crawford Tom was a fairly well-known painter in the mid to the late 19th century. He lived here in the Old Ridge section, married a local girl in his second marriage, and most of his children grew up here in the historic district, and we felt it was appropriate to display his work here because much of it depicts scenes of this area. Our most recent acquisition is Winter in Old Ridge, which belonged to Governor Harold Hoffman, was in his personal collection of paintings, and was given to us by his daughter when his widow's estate was settled. And that's a very famous painting, Winter in Old Ridge. It's on Cosman Street, depicts some school children playing out in front of the old school, which now is the home of Mr. William Kramer. So we're very fortunate to have that. We have 4 others as well that we own here at the museum of the works of James Crawford Tom. And we have catalogs of that exhibit, and we really have the definitive research done on James Crawford Tom. Estelle, as a matter of fact, was a co-chairman of that exhibit with Tom Schuster and I.
Now that led to the Hoffman papers
Right.
pertaining to the Lindbergh trial.
Right.
How many things were in those papers that never came out in public? Now, you told me before that you read them.
Yeah.
I want to hear all the lowdown.
You want to hear all the...
I want to hear all the dirt. All the dirt.
Well, the governor's personal files, as I probably indicated before, he was governor during the Lindbergh trial, right after the Lindbergh trial, and during the appeal process. He conducted his own investigation, and there were 23,000 pages of documentation and sworn statements from the case, as well as hundreds of pictures and pieces of evidence from the Lindbergh case. And it had been thought that they were lost or stolen. And when the governor's family gave us all of his personal papers and memorabilia when we were cleaning it out of the garage, we came to the back of the garage and there were 3 file cabinets marked Lindbergh case, and we opened them up, and here were the documents and evidence that had been missing for over 50 years. We brought it here to the museum and cataloged it. As you know, State Police has most of the original documents now. The materials that are there are really had been described pretty well by the governor in a series of articles he wrote in the 30s for Liberty magazine. And it really is the documentation for the governor's belief that perhaps the wrong man was convicted in the Lindbergh case. And since 1977 and 81, when the state and federal files themselves were opened up, a book has been written by Ludovic Kennedy called The Airman and the Carpenter, which really reflects in great part an awful lot of the information that was in the governor's files, which made the governor believe that the man perhaps was not guilty of the crime for which he was convicted.
Isn't his widow still trying to prove that he was innocent?
Yeah, Mrs. Richard Hoffman, yes, she is still firmly believes that her husband is innocent. She's going to be here in East Brunswick in June for the Chamber of Commerce meeting. Her lawyer is going to be speaking to the community here. She's been here at the museum with her lawyer, and they've gone through all of the papers and to seeking further assistance in their litigation and their attempts to have Richard Hoffman reprieved or given a posthumous pardon for the crime.
Estelle, you are chairman of the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission, and you've been very instrumental in the old bridge, the old district here, the historic district preservation. You've also a guiding light with the museum. What made you pick this particular building? Now, it was an old church.
Yes, at one time it was an old church, but it had been desanctified when we became interested in it. The historic district was placed on the register a year or two before that time, and we were very, very much involved in the research of the community, and we realized that a great deal had transpired in this area prior to our involvement there, and which involved culture, that involved the early industry, schools, art, etc. And we felt that there was so much that we wanted to share with the community, with other people living in the area of old Middlesex County, and that they would find it worthwhile. And what better place to bring them than into the district itself. Therefore, the district would become a little more widely known, and a museum within the district would add another dimension to our community. When we realized that this had potential, we looked at it with different eyes, and we asked our mayor at that time what she thought of the possibilities. That was Mayor Jean Walling, and she was very far-sighted and interested in history as well as we were, and she thought that had also great possibilities, and we pursued it from that point on.
It was it once belonged to the baseball managers.
Yes, it did. But I believe that some contractual work was done with them so that they had funds afterwards to purchase some other land and build in a more appropriate place in East Brunswick.
Well, it's a beautiful setting. In fact, this whole area is a beautifully historic section to visit.
Yeah, it's grown, it's changed. I think, you know, the township, through the preservation efforts, through the work here, the restoration of this museum facility with state and federal funds, the new park setting that has been built here for the museum in the last few months, the major investment that people have made in their own properties and that have been made on Main Street, the area has always been charming, but it gets to be nicer and nicer every day. It really does.
Well, you've had some marvelous exhibits at this museum. I mean, you have your stationary exhibits of Americana, which are absolutely delightful to look at. How did you acquire these?
Well, many of them are on loan to us. Many pieces are part of our own collection. You usually judge a museum by the quality of its collection, and we're very proud of building up a very interesting collection. These objects are objects which are representative of people's lives, their daily lives, their art which they may have, utensils which they use, objects in their own religion, their diaries, their documents. When they choose to turn them over to us, it adds another dimension to our collection, and we have been very fortunate in this. But a collection is built up by gifts, which is the best way, purchases or exchanges with other museums. In our museum, we also have a small fund from which we draw monies for exceptional purchases, which we may not be able to get otherwise, but still the best source is through gifts. And a good portion of this, which we have here as part of our permanent exhibits, is made up of gifts. And we got some very interesting ones this past year. One was that beautiful organ up front, which you've seen there, and any number of them, objects here. People give most interesting things. We may get a plow, we may get a scythe, or we may get an old typewriter, or a piece of porcelain, or a cracked pot, or some cracked pottery I'm talking about. And
You probably get the other ones too.
yes, but it's the enthusiasm which people have in coming up to the museum and donating things to us, which makes it all exciting, because when they donate things, they know their names will be on this object, and it's will go in perpetuity. And we're proud to share this with the community. And when I say community, I mean the community of peoples everywhere, Middlesex, and all those peoples who want to visit us here in Middlesex County, East Brunswick.
And isn't that really what a museum is? Not just going back to the heritage of, say, East Brunswick and the people that were here originally, but everyone's heritage, whether they've just come over within the last few years or 100 years ago there.
That's right.
Well, Estelle has recognized that, and I think has been one of the leaders in drawing out the ethnic heritage, the heritage really of every group that's in East Brunswick, whether or not they're indigenous here, whether they were born here and their ancestors lived here. We had a wonderful exhibit, one of our best, called Splendors of the Orient, a few years ago that Estelle chaired,
yes.
which was marvelous, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, and it was just really spectacular. It was a part of East Brunswick Heritage Ethnic Festival that was held a few years back. That is a part of our philosophy, really based upon Estelle's strong feelings about that way of involving people in their community and their history.
You also have had some great Christmas. I know it's a little early to talk about Christmas yet, but you've had some great toy exhibits.
Yes, we've been very proud of our 2 or 3 very great antique toy exhibits. We borrowed toys from various museums, various private collections, and they became very interesting because we had to promise everything under the sun to borrow these. And it also was very fun. I'd like to digress for a moment because we had to prove to these museums that we had an appropriate museum with a proper equipment and conditions so that the very, very priceless objects which they belong to us would be protected. And so we had climate control, etc., light control, and all the security which is appropriate to a museum, which we're very proud of now at this point in time, because we are young as a museum, but we have all of these factors.
I really would encourage people to come by and see not the district, but see the museum, because people are astounded by what we have here in a local area community museum. When we had the James Crawford Tom retrospective, we were able to borrow, based upon the caliber of our facility, paintings from the Walters Gallery, from the Athenaeum in Boston, from the University of Arizona, from the Union League Club in Philadelphia, really from all the major galleries. I mean, there was no one who turned us down based upon our ability and facility as a museum. And we're a voluntary museum.
Exactly.
We're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid here. So we feel very good about what we've been doing here. And it's an exciting place to be for in any time. There's always something new or different to be seen.
Which is exactly what I was going to say. But you said it for me, John, so I'll go on. There is a set of furniture there that I particularly fell in love with, and you said some time ago that it had been donated, and I believe Alberta Uhas had upholstered it and redone it.
It was donated by Rosemary and her husband, Tarrant, isn't that her name? Rosemary Tarrant.
Rosemary and Frank Tarrant.
Yeah.
They had bought it at the estate sale for Ethel Welch.
From Ethel Welch's estate, that's right.
Who was very, involved in the community here. And Alberti and John Uhas restored it and reupholstered it. Victorian living room suit. It's gorgeous.
It is so beautiful. I fell in love with that when I first came in and saw that.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, but we have something for everyone here. And
That's just it.
You had mentioned our toy exhibits. We were at astounding toy exhibits. And we also had a teddy bear exhibit, which is memorable to us, because at one Christmas we thought the people were getting very weary of seeing antique toys, so we thought for a change we'd take teddy bears. Now, you think you have a few elephants here. This place was glutted with teddy bears, glutted. And everybody, well, we asked people to volunteer to loan us their teddy bears, but we didn't figure on having adults doing that. And they came up with rather antique little teddy bears. And we also suggested that they could march around the block afterwards as participants. Well, it was interesting because the adults asked if they might also march with the children. It was fun.
Teddy bears on parade.
That's right.
It was a fun time, and that's what these holiday exhibits should be for children. And we had entertainment for them here. And as John said, this might be a safety problem here. He said, look all the people you have. We were standing 5 abreast. The place, we were standing on the windowsills practically. But it was fun. It was enjoyable. The kids loved it. And the community loved it. And that's what it's all about. We want people to come here at all times to find it interesting all times of the year, and they shouldn't just say, well, we have seen the museum. No, every time the museum has something else to offer to them, it should become interesting, educational, and enriching all the time.
You know what I think is absolutely fascinating, too, is the fact that the East Brunswick Museum is listed with this gorgeous picture on the Travel and Tourist Bureau brochure that they've sent out.
Yes, we're very proud of it, and we're especially proud of it since it makes us more visible as a state museum, one of the private state museums, rather than a purely local museum.
Local museum,
yes.
right.
We have greater visibility, and we are very, very pleased that people will come to visit us during this year, which probably will be highlighted because of the Statue of Liberty celebration, and all of New Jersey will be. But we're looking forward to getting a good portion of the visitors coming down to East Brunswick, and especially to our museum, and we welcome them.
I know you do. You always have a great feeling when you walk in here of hospitality,
It's
too.
a very warm place. I always thought the buildings had vibrations or feelings about them. It's a very positive place, the museum. It really is. I've always felt good when I was here.
You know, the two of you have been so involved in the arts. Estelle, you've been involved in the arts for years. I don't mean it to make you sound like you've been going forever. I'm sorry about that. But I meant you have done so much in the arts field. And John, when you were administrator, you were very concerned with the arts and arts programming, not just locally, but all over. What are the plans for the future? How do you feel about the future with the arts and the museum and the whole thing?
I'll start out, and
Go
Estelle can
ahead.
give us a bigger picture, because she is chairman of the County Arts Commission.
Okay.
But the museum, for instance, has a tremendous future. The arts is a broad thing, and there's lots of exciting things happening in East Brunswick. But the museum, I think, has a really outstanding future ahead for it. We are beginning the work on the establishment of an archive for local and regional history of the state of New Jersey, and the core of that, of course, will be Governor Harold Hoffman's papers, plus the papers of Gene Walling and other local folks that have been given to us, and that's going to be in the DeVoe Library facility, which was the original East Brunswick Museum, a library, which began here in the village. And hopefully next door to that, we're going to build back the former post office that used to be there. The architect's designs have been done, and we'd like to get a postal substation there, and so we can sell stamps and deliver mail from there, but also then have a gift shop for the village and for the museum in that facility. We're going to get under major renovations here and expand the scope of our storage and display ability here at the museum. So we have an awful lot at the museum ahead of us that's going to require a lot of energy on work on everybody's part. But I think the museum and the strength here is only really indicative of the commitment that the community of East Brunswick has had through its local government and with the residents of the community for the arts. Playhouse 22 and the construction of that, and the completion of that, the Arts Commission work generally, the video program. These fellows are taping us at this very moment as a part of the arts, and they have a marvelous facility. That's some of the things that comes to mind for me. I know Estelle is involved in even more exciting things here in the community and regionally as chairman of the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission.
You know, I realize I owe you an apology because in your introduction, I forgot to also say you were councilman at the moment.
Well, we'll forgive you.
Will forgive me for that.
But your assessment on your property is going to double in the morning.
Thanks a lot, John.
Okay.
Estelle, what do you see as chairman of the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission ahead for the arts? Good things?
Absolutely good things. You know, Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission has tremendous ideas for the future. I don't want to burst out with them too soon, but I'll tell you that they are continually planning wonderful projects, and one which is coming up this fall is the retrospective of Edison, the Edison project, which is an exciting thing. They've been working on it now for several years. The Cornelius Lau House is one magnificent place to visit. It's a museum, and they participate and support every art organization and cultural organization in all of Middlesex County that asks for assistance. Very, very few are turned away, and we're very proud of that. They have various programs through McNack, which are state-supported funding, etc., and all the expertise they have, they're willing to share with everybody who needs it. Also, they're interested in supporting people and organizations and communities which need help and assistance in preparing their communities or houses for being on the historic districts or getting recognition through preservation that way.
And what our viewers just heard then was a historic clock, which is part of the clock collection here at the moment.
That's correct.
Yes.
Our current exhibit is clocks.
Clocks, as you well have heard.
Interesting segue.
We tried to time everything, but somehow it
Our
didn't.
current exhibit is clocks, which will be here through September. We will also have an exhibit of posters, stamps, as well as our permanent exhibit, the elephants. And then we're going to have a small exhibit, our own little exhibit on the Statue of Liberty and the 4th of July and for the summer celebration for Miss Liberty. So the museum should be an interesting place to be throughout the summer.
And viewers throughout the entire state can pick up any of these travel and tourism brochures, rather, and find their way very quickly here, right?
Exactly.
That's correct.
We are easily accessible. We are accessible because even though it seems to be placed away in this little nook of East Brunswick, it's accessible to the major highways, the Turnpike, the Route 18, US 1, etc. So all they have to do is make a phone call and get information as to how to reach the place. And of course, it's free. Admission is free, which many people inquire about as well. And we're excited about the future here, also about the exhibits which are coming up in the near future. After our renovation, as John was explaining, we're going to have other exhibits, which will be the doll exhibit and masks. These will be two new things which we're planning for the future. And we're enthusiastic. It's wonderful because we're always enthusiastic. We have a bunch of enthusiastic people who happen to be volunteers. And even though we're not paid, we get it on just personal satisfaction. And that, I think, is what keeps us all going here. It's just the personal satisfaction of seeing a job well done.
It's a good place. One of your audience may want to know that the last Saturday in September, the date escapes me at the moment, but it's the last Saturday in September we have our big festival down here in the village.
That's right, the Old Bridge Festival.
Yeah, the Old Bridge, sponsored by the museum, which is a crafts festival, and craftsmen from all over New Jersey come here to the museum. We usually have a major day in terms of special things here at the museum with all the streets with the craftsmen and food, and it's a big party and celebration and a lot of fun last Saturday in September, and we hope everybody will put that on their calendar now and come down for
Well,
that.
I'm here every year to that, and that is exciting. Some of the most marvelous things you can buy.
It's good.
See.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And you have entertainment,
Yes. Yes.
food.
Food?
What else could they want?
I don't know. I suspect I could think of a thing or two, but I don't know as they'll be a part of that festival. Those are the major things, and it's really excellent, a lot of fun, and we hope that everybody will come down before then and then to see the East Brunswick Museum.
One last short question. If you had your druthers, and I ask this of everyone, for this museum, where do you want to see it really go? I mean, not leave here, but I mean...
My opinion is I'd like to see it emerge as the major regional museum in the state of New Jersey. There is none. And I think the East Brunswick Museum has the potential for being the major central New Jersey museum.
Exactly, yes.
What about you, Estelle?
Oh, yes, we have high hopes for it. And, well, we would possibly require a little bit more support for it that way,
No
but
question.
a little more
Send
support.
your money.
Yes.
Send your money. And we're seeking that, but we always have to plan ahead, and we have dreams for the future about it being here perpetually, and for the next generation to enjoy it as well. And we're making plans for the next generation to enjoy it. And we are very proud of what we're going to leave our children, and for them to think very well of this current generation. And we think that they are going to use this as a criteria for building upon it and even improving it for the future. But we're enjoying it in the process. We're enjoying it, and that's what's great about it.
If you have a second, Dolly, to get to the East Brunswick Museum from Route 1 and the Turnpike, go 18 south. And you go 18 south until you see a sign that says Main Street, Spotswood, the Amboys. And you take a right there. Right before that sign, there's a brown sign that says Museum. So if you're on 18 south towards the shore from Route 1 and the exit 9 of the New Jersey Turnpike, you go down until you see Main Street, the Amboys, Spotswood, you take a right and follow the brown signs. There's a brown sign with a logo in the
Right.
middle. It says museum. There's an arrow. You can't miss it. And it'll bring you right here to the East Brunswick Museum.
Perhaps you'd like to mention the phone number of our museum, too.
All right, you mentioned it, Estelle. What is the phone number of the museum?
257-1508.
257-1508. Very good.
I would not have remembered it. Thank you.
I want to thank both of you for being my guest today. And I'd like to thank all of my viewers for tuning in. And I hope all of you will get a chance to come to see this enchanting museum. You will go back in history, and it's just wonderful. Go down the shore, have a swim, but on your way down, treat the kids to a little culture. I'll see you all next month. In the meantime, take care.